There is a clear reason why you're not actually making progress in the language you're learning, and it's not to do with what you think. It's not entirely to do with the things that you're doing. It's not entirely to do with you wasting time and being demotivated, although these are all parts of the equation. The thing that's actually stopping you from learning a language is all to do with your identity, and if you constantly feel frustrated and anxious, like you're not actually making progress, like you're not good enough, maybe even that feeling of other people have something that you don't, that's how they're making progress, they have like a secret or a cheat code or something like that, then you're in the right place, because in this video I'm going to explain all about identity, how to carve out the identity of a language learner to 10x your progress. And if you're interested in that kind of content, definitely hit the subscribe button. But let's go. I need something to explain to you right now. So the problem is often not what you think, and in this case the problem is actually the symptom of a bigger problem, which is to do with identity. But right now you're obviously not making good language learning progress. It's difficult, it's painful, it's frustrating. You catch yourself believing it can't be done, all that other nonsense, and that's absolute crap. I'll just say right now. But of course you're not finished there. You want to learn faster. You need to be fulfilled. You've got a goal, and you're not going to feel happy until you're actually making solid progress on it. And here is what actually is happening. So the real problem that isn't the kind of hidden behind the scenes problem is to do with your identity. We don't actually achieve goals, we achieve identities, and I'll explain this in a second in a graph. But the way making progress in any difficult goal, including language learning, I call them big goals, is to achieve an identity. So if you achieve the identity of someone who is able to speak the language or who is proficient at language learning, the identity will then achieve the goal for you. So what does all this mean? It sounds like kind of, woo-woo, hocus pocus bullshit. Let me actually explain. So on the left side of this left picture, I've drawn a line down the screen so you can see there's a left picture and a right picture. The left picture is what we're looking at now, where it says now. That's you right now on the left side of the screen. You're attempting to learn a language. So you've got you here, this is you attempting to learn to the goal, which is learn a language. That's what LAL stands for. You'll probably see it in a bunch of my videos, just LAL, learn a language, or LL, language learn. And what's actually happening is there is a cross right here blocking you from being truly productive in learning a language, and this cross, this obstacle that is stopping you is actually you have the wrong identity. And what of course happens when you have the wrong identity is you do the wrong actions, which means you don't actually make progress properly towards a goal. You can still make some progress, you can still learn words here and there, but you're never actually going to be a language learner. If you don't change, you are always going to be the person who's frustrated they can't speak the language, who's not good enough, who doesn't really impress people when they say that they can't, when they say that they're learning the language and they're not even that good at it. And I think the best way to characterize this, it doesn't matter what language you're learning, but things like I'm trying to learn Swedish are that's an embodiment of this kind of identity. You're attempting to learn a language. You're not a language learner. You're not a speaker of the language. You're trying to learn a language. Here is the better way of doing it. Here is the actual kind of, this is what we should be aiming for, and I'll unpack this on the next slide when I actually talk about the solution. But here is what is ideal, and this is what I try to do every single day. So here is you again. Instead of having this roadblock that's called the wrong identity, you have an identity problem. You think you're learning the language, but you think other people have something you don't. You're frustrated. You're anxious. You feel like you're wasting your time. You have to try and find these secrets and have to try and figure out all of these little things to do to learn a language rather than just learn a language. You instead have the correct identity. You're not someone who's trying to learn Swedish. You're a speaker of Swedish who's consuming Swedish content and becoming better at Swedish by learning words, like talking to people, basically living life. And once you have that identity, what actually happens is it's easy to learn the language because it's just behavior. It's no longer you attempting to learn, it's your behavior as this person. It's not you trying to do something you don't normally do. This is normal for you. And of course the result is, I don't know why there's a line here, sorry, ignore that. But the result is, of course, you learn the language and you actually get there. And you're not someone who's trying to learn Swedish again. It's characterized by you saying, I am speaking Swedish. So where are we at so far in this video? We understand that the problem is, the symptom of the problem is you're frustrated, that you're not making any progress and you're not getting anywhere. And now that we understand the real problem, we're able to recognize that it's actually your identity. You're someone who's trying to learn a language. You're struggling, you're frustrated, you're anxious, and this kind of calls around you. And you're really looking for kind of you're looking for hacks and secret tricks, and you're doing flashcards because you need to learn the language and get better. You're trying to learn the language, when instead the correct identity to have is someone who is a speaker of that language. And I'm not saying be arrogant or anything. We'll address all of that on the next slide. But the correct identity is a speaker of that language who is merely that you just consume content in that language. That's what you do every single day, just like you do in English. And of course, you become better that way. So here is my solution. Here is my doctor's diagnosis, even though I'm not actually a doctor. But I'm a doctor in helping you right now. I want you to imagine that. I'm your doctor. You've got a problem. You can't learn a language and you want to. Here's your fucking medicine. Here's what I'm diagnosing you with. Here's what you need to do. So stop trying to learn a language. Start being a speaker of that language. And it doesn't mean going around saying, oh, I'm fluent in this language. If someone asks you, oh, can you speak this language? And you're not particularly good at it, you couldn't hold a conversation with someone without making many mistakes and pauses and that kind of thing. Just say, no, but I will be. No, but I'm learning. That's the time it's okay to show some humility. When it's within yourself, you don't need to show humility. That actually will hold you back. So I want you to just conceive within yourself that you are a speaker of that language. It's kind of the difference between, if you imagine actors for a second, we know, picture your best actor right now, your favorite actor, they're really good at acting. They don't just act, they actually be. They're not acting, they're not pretending to be a character in a movie. For me, I'm thinking of Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight as the Joker. He wasn't acting as the Joker. That was potentially some of the other actors who played the Joker. He wasn't acting, he was the character. He was the Joker in that movie. And that is you as a language learner. You're not trying to be a language learner. You're not acting or pretending as someone who speaks Swedish or whatever language you're learning. You are a speaker of that language, and that is why you do language learning habits. That's why you consume content every day. You're not an advanced speaker, but you're learning things in that language simply by being a speaker of that language, just as we learn things in English every single day. So if you don't adopt this identity, you will basically always be an outsider. So enough said, how do we actually adopt the identity of someone like this? So the number one thing is to stop stressing when you don't understand stuff. It's very7normal and very common, and I catch myself doing this all the time, that when you read something in a foreign language or you hear someone speak and you don't understand, it's too complicated, you're not familiar with the words, the sentence structure's all messed up, they've got an accent, the writing's already hard to read, etc. It's very normal to get kind of frustrated and anxious and think, oh, I'm wasting my time, I'm missing something here, I don't have this one secret that could help me be better at language learning, and that's why this is so hard. And that isn't true. So what you need to do is stop stressing when you don't understand stuff. If you see something that you don't understand, you just need to remember that that's free experience. That is a free opportunity for you to learn new stuff. And you don't even have to learn every single word you encounter you don't understand. You can read a page, understand half of it, and maybe pick out 3 or 4 words and Google Translate them and learn those words. You don't need to get so frustrated when you don't encounter stuff. Like, think about it logically. You don't speak Swedish or whatever language, you're learning on a daily basis. You don't know probably many people that speak the language. You don't have to speak the language, really. You could literally not learn it, most of you, if you didn't have to. So why are you entitled to be so good at the language all of a sudden? And the answer is, you're not entitled to be so good at the language. If language learning was that easy, it wouldn't be special and you wouldn't actually be as invested in it. So when you encounter things you don't understand, don't stress, recognize it as a learning opportunity, and be grateful, because there was a period, maybe a week ago or months ago, or maybe even years ago, where you started trying to learn the language and you knew nothing. You didn't even recognize the word for good evening. But you probably are at the level now where you can see words like that and understand them. And remember, there was a time when you couldn't even do that. So be grateful for what you have. The second thing is to enjoy yourself. I see a lot of people do language learning in kind of a boot camp, frustrating way, and they completely miss the point. It's supposed to be a fun journey. And no, that doesn't mean you need to enjoy every single study session. That doesn't mean you don't have to show discipline when sometimes you don't feel like doing flashcards or whatever. But it does mean you're not supposed to torture yourself language learning. It's supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to read books that you would normally read in English but in a foreign language. You're supposed to watch vlogs from YouTubers in a foreign language on things like the gym or health or whatever you're interested in. You're supposed to do X, Y, and Z that you normally do to enjoy yourself, to become better at the foreign language. That is how you build on the connections you already have. So make sure to actually enjoy yourself. If you need a hand finding enjoyable tasks to language learning, you can jump in the Discord below. It's completely free, and I will help you with that. And the third thing I will say is to set high ROI tasks and work on them. And what I mean by high ROI tasks is basically things that are going to give you the highest return on investment. So don't waste your time, doing random bullshit in the language. There are only a few actually important things that will give you the results you want. So, for example, flashcards for memorizing words, reading, listening to podcasts, watching videos with subtitles to help you improve your listening, etc. A few other things like that. And if you want to know more about high ROI tasks, I'll have a video pop up on the screen right now, and I'll also link it in the description for you to watch afterwards if you want. But yeah, and as a bonus, I will say, the thing that I would recommend to you is take every single opportunity you can to be a speaker of the language. If you meet someone who speaks the language and you don't speak to them, you're reducing your identity as a speaker of the language. Every time you meet someone who is from the country of the language you're learning, you need to speak to them simply because, or you need to at least attempt it. Even if you know 2 words, tell them you're starting learning and ask them what a word means. It's so good, and because every time you do that, you rack up confidence points, and confidence points are the currency of your identity. That is how you build the identity of a language learner, of a proficient speaker in the language. And if you do want to build that identity, I would highly recommend you scroll down and check out the Language Learning Accelerator, which is my course at the moment. It's got everything you need to become proficient in a language quickly, simply, nothing that you don't need. There's no rubbish or anything in it that's just wasting your time like most of the content on social media, and I will personally coach you as well. So definitely scroll down and check that out. Guys, thank you for watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button and have a good one.